This is Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, a weekly podcast for game show enthusiasts. Episode number 13, The Losers Circle, recorded February 20th, 2016.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. And before you're wondering, did Torgo get voice surgery? No. My name is Jordan, aka Unique Perspective, and unfortunately our main MC of sorts, Torgo, has been battling a pretty bad cold for the last week. So he is present, he is observing what we're doing today, but he will not be talking much to save his voice, and I'll be sort of taking the lead on these conversations today. But I cannot do it alone, as much as I'd like to think, and joining me are my fine friends and cohorts, and why don't you introduce yourselves?
My name is Adam, Road Geek Adam, and unfortunately, I will not be enjoying a 15-day suspension for beating my wife.
I'm Derek, aka Thupa, and I'm going to set the record for most failed attempts to get on a game show in 1 year.
I am JJMan920, Jason, and I wish when the time comes I could be as hard as a Lucky 7 setup.
And I'm Nick, and if I sound any different, it's because A, I'm talking, and B, I'm on a different microphone.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is probably the most Nick has spoken in the last two podcasts combined.
The last one wasn't fair. He was on the road.
Fair enough, that is true. But we have some stuff to get to today. Namely, Price is Right Dream Car Week. It panned out, and we had some fun stuff happen. We gave away not one, but two dream cars this week. Spelling Bee, we gave away a six-figure plus Aston Martin with a very lucky playing where the contestant got the car card on her very first card, but also added a fun temptation because normally, as you might know with Spelling Bee, the cards are normally $1,000 per card to make a $5,000 temptation. But with the increased prize, they made each card $5,000 and made it a possible $25,000 temptation and made that an interesting dynamic. But she got all five cards and went on, but the card was the first car, so not too much suspense there. We had some losses along the way, more or less for Maserati. We lost on the second prize. Cover-up for a Porsche. We had a fairly typical cover-up setup, which unfortunately did not yield great results. Lucky 7 for a Tesla. That didn't pan out so great. But Golden Road for a Mercedes-Benz. Adrian, the contestant who played Golden Road, seemed to know his stuff because the second prize and the Benz were actually set up pretty tough with a repeat number on the last car, but he managed to succeed and got himself nearly a $140,000 car and became the second biggest winner just off of that game. But that's not all. If you thought, that's enough dream cars, but can we have any more? Why, yes we can. They decided for, you know how normally on the wheel you get a double dollar and you get 25,000? Not this time. You got $2. You got a $35,000 plus Mercedes-Benz. And we did manage to have one of those in the middle of the week. I believe it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. I want to say Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes. So all in all, we actually gave away 3 dream cars. How do you feel it went? Do you feel that we managed to give away this many dream cars made the week a success? Any other highs, any other lows that I failed to mention?
Well, I feel they gave away about the ones they were expecting. With Spelling Bee, you probably have a pretty good chance because the pricing is pretty much out of their control. Well, I guess maybe not. I don't know if they really expected Golden Road to be one. I think the other 3 went about how they expected. More or less, I don't think they were expecting Tesla to get to the car, especially with the Sauna, which was, I felt like, a pretty deceptive price and one that most contestants would fail. So I think for the most part, it went about how they expected it to go.
I mean, the one thing with Lucky 7, this season alone we've had 8s and 9s running like wildfire, and guess what? Even with the Dream Car, there's still 8s and 9s running around in the price. It's not like they deviated too far from the mean when it came to Lucky 7.
But I mean, to Adam's point, I think you do need to have some sense of balance in what dream cars you want to give away and what ones you don't. Because I don't think most budgets would normally want you to give away about $500,000 of cars in 1 week.
Okay, that's great, but they gave away $290,000 worth of cars, and they didn't give away the cheaper ones.
Well, here's one of my problems with this week is that this has been a very winning season. We've had 2 perfect shows, and we've had a lot of 5 for 6s. We've hardly had any 1 for 6s and 0 for 6 shows this season. So they're already giving away a lot. This is the tough part of the season. I'm very interested. I know they probably did it for sweeps, but I'm very interested that they decided to slot a week where you're trying to at least promote that you're going to give away, even if you don't want to really give away, a car that is at least over $50,000. The first one they ever had was like back in November or December. That's a good time to have it when the crunch isn't on. But here we are in the middle of the season, and you're, I think, trying to save a little money by, making harder setups, cheaper showcases, so that way you can have more winning and end the season off correctly, but yet you're going to have a dream car week here. I liked it. I'm happy they gave away what they did. I just wish they would have had it at a different point in time.
Do you feel a different sweeps period would have worked? Do you think something like Dream Car Week would have fit in a November sweeps, a May sweeps, or even earlier in February? How do you feel you would fix the timing issue if you were in charge?
I like the first time they did it when it was late November, early December. I thought that was a good time to get it out of the way and not have to worry about that anymore. I know they probably didn't because they put Big Money Week there, but maybe there's a few too many big weeks on the show.
And what I wonder to that point is what has typically been set up harder? Is Big Money Week something that's typically been set up harder to give away the big money, or has Dream Car Week typically been set up harder to give away the cars? And I wonder if the one that is easier, whether it would fit it more into sort of an end of year period where, I could be wrong, I always feel like November sweeps always got a little bit more attention than, say, February sweeps. And so I wonder if the easier one would fit in that November timeframe.
I think Dream Car Week is a lot easier way to put together. And B, it's just a lot more fun, honestly, because even though you dragged out the theme all week.
I mean, something like that I think could be very subjective.
Well, Torko brought up a very good point, is that Big Money Week is harder because when you win cash, all you have to do is say, here, take the taxes out of the cash and give me the rest of the cash. And when you're winning $100,000, that sounds good to me. When you're winning a $120,000 car, you have to come out of perhaps your own pocket or with maybe the other prizes you might have won to pay the taxes for that car. And people don't often do that, and they will turn them down or they will sell them. The spelling bee winner, she said she was going to sell the car. She wasn't going to take it. And I wonder if the guy that won the BMW or Adrian who won the Mercedes-Benz, I wonder if they really took those cars or not.
I mean,
well, I find it interesting that she's not even going to sell the car. She's just going to turn it down, and it makes me wonder why she didn't even take the $25,000. Well, I guess when you're in the moment, you wouldn't even think about that. But I just feel like it's kind of interesting where she could have had $25,000, and instead she ended up getting nothing. Oh, Torgo says she turned it down because it has a manual transmission.
Can't drive stick. But I also found it interesting that when she decided to go for it, she was like I kind of have to do it. Like, I think she realized that, yeah, $25,000 is a lot of money, but it even if I don't keep the car, it would have been something to just be in the moment to win the car and whatnot. Torgo can attest to people who perhaps go on the show and are just happy to be there, and they may win something, but they end up turning the prize down.
And that leads to sort of an interesting segue from that. One of the things that I don't think many of us were expecting were, first of all, spelling bee for a dream car at all. I'm pretty sure that's the first time they've ever done that. And,
it is.
Yeah. And
we weren't expecting it, but Torgo did mention it.
He did mention it. This is true. But the interesting temptation of what we were talking about, of do you want $25,000 in cash, which for a lot of people, myself included, that can be very significant, very life-changing. Or do you go for the six-figure car? And do you all feel this temptation would work. As Torgo mentioned, it is a necessary evil to increase the temptation by some amount because normally it would be $5,000 compared to $120,000, and mathematically wouldn't make much sense. But do you feel the temptation of $25,000 worked? Do you think that was the right amount? Do you think it should be a little less? Do you think it should have been even more?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with changing it. We did have the lady 2 years ago in Temptation who bailed with,
I was about to
I
say,
think, under $4,000, and it wasn't even all cash.
It was
cash and prizes.
It was around $4,000. I went and looked, and I was like, so you might find the right person who'll say, oh, I like that $5,000. I'll take that. Screw that car.
I mean, there's definitely a valid point to that because I, for one, live in New York City. I don't really have a need to drive at all. And even if I did want to drive, the roads are crazy as hell. But so cash to me would be important. But do you feel for a home audience, do you think the temptation has to be increased? And if so, do you think 25,000 works as an amount?
I think it works. I mean, it's proportionate to the price of the car. It's a very small portion of the prize you're playing for. And that's what the temptation should be. It shouldn't be a minuscule portion, but it should at least be a small, sizable portion of what you're playing for. And I felt that it was necessary for them to do that, and I thought they did the right thing by raising the values.
I think there was certainly some amount that needed to be raised, and I think I'm probably going to agree with you that 25,000. That is right. Torgo mentioned 20 to 25% of the car is fair, and that seems to be about the ratio, so I think that fits. And I guess the last thing about Dream Car Week is we had talked about this before. We speculated that a car would be given away at the big wheel, and it was the $double BMW, which was given away. I think this worked better than I thought it. I think it worked a lot better than I thought it would.
Well, one of the things I noticed is that, and this is no criticism, I know they wanted to put the car out on the stage and whatnot, but it definitely made the car being on the stage definitely made the stage look smaller. Like when I watched the show as a kid, when I watch the show now, you don't usually see the entire wheel when people spinning. You don't usually see like a wide shot of the wheel on the stage. You usually just see it close up. And so when it looks like people walk off to the right of the stage after they might lose or something, you'll see them walk off and you might think, oh, there must be so much staged in that direction. Seeing the car on the stage shows how little space it is. And, television makes a big deal about making sets look bigger on television. Well, that car definitely ruined the illusion. Not that I have a problem with that. I just thought it was very funny. It was probably, and this is the one thing that really makes The Price is Right great. It was that wheel spin was probably one of the most exciting things that the show has had in a long time because that wheel was very slow getting to that dollar. I think that couldn't have worked better if they planned it out any more than it did. I bet Roger was perhaps watching at home, Roger Dobkowitz, the old producer of The Price is Right, and thinking, man, why couldn't we have had that happen with the $1 Million spin during the $1 Million Spectaculars? That was great.
I mean, I think variance in the top prize can work if it's once or twice a year to add additional attention to it. And Torgo brought up another good point. The same Showcase Showdown where we gave away the Beamer was actually a $double tie. So you possibly had two people that could have won a BMW in the same Showcase Showdown. That would have been nuts from a prize.
Like, you get in the driver's seat, you get in the passenger seat, it's your cars together.
Yeah. But JJ brought up another very good point in that I don't know how I feel about the wide angle shot about the wheel and the car. There was something about the sort of perspective on the wheel and the car from the sort of angle that, I don't know, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I wonder if it could have worked just as well with a split screen like they have in the past of maybe the contestant and the wheel and the car. I'm not necessarily an editing expert, but I wonder visually how that could have worked.
I don't know what having the three split screen would do, because I think that would make a big mess of the wheel, because that would mean you'd probably have to have the contestant on the left, the wheel in the middle, and the car on the right. And that barely fits in an SD television, much less an HD one.
Because I understand what you're talking about. Just because you start adding in picture and split screen, and all of a sudden your screen is cluttered up with a bunch of things going on. I like Torgo's idea though of putting the car into door 3. I think that would have worked just as well and still achieve the same effect. But I guess having it so close looked cooler to Adam Adam Sandler, that is the director of the show. And I can't blame him. Like I said, it didn't bother me as much. I just felt that it, clearly made the stage look smaller.
I guess last thing I'll say about this before I move on is, do you feel like the car should have gotten a George Gray buildup? Because for any of you who didn't watch much, Drew just basically said, and if you get a double dollar, we're playing for a BMW worth over $35,000. Do you think that worked, or do you think George should have done a buildup for that like he has for other cars?
Do they really have time to spare? I mean, the show, especially I think it was Wednesdays, was super, super, super edited, and they may not even have 10 to 15 seconds to spare to describe it.
Yeah, like I would have liked to have heard George, like, we got this new car over here. George, tell him about it. And that would have been nice, but I agree that, the lineups, some of the lineups this week, the selection of games that they played were excellent lineups. Great selection of games, fun selection of games, and unfortunately some of them are long. So I think time just wasn't on our side to have George do a spiel at least during Showcase Showdown 1. So
now, Torgo mentioned that they should have read off the options when it was 1 since it was not a base. Do you think that would come across weird on TV, though? Like, I sort of want to, congratulations, here's a car. George.
The only reason I don't think they felt the need to mention it is because it wasn't a pricing game. And I know it was a prize that they were giving away, but I guess given the way that you had to win it, it wasn't important to mention the options in the car. It wasn't important for Spelling Bee either, but I just felt that's another way to save time, and it really didn't matter much.
I just wonder whether it would come across as an anticlimax. But if you have thoughts about Dream Car Week that we didn't cover, let us know. Let us know below. But naturally, Torgo does bring up a good point as well. The swapped shows.
Golden Road was supposed to be Tuesday, and it was switched out for more or less.
They just wanted to win at the end of the week.
I think
they
didn't.
Bookends.
Yeah, and I don't think they wanted to just start off with 2 wins and then say, hey, keep coming back, and then the rest of the week ends in dream car losses after dream car loss after dream car loss. Where here they have the opportunity to say, here's a win in the mid, here's the win at the beginning, here's the big wheel in the middle, and here's a win at the end, and they could keep things consistent over the course of the week to keep people watching. Where they might tend to fall off if nothing happens after the second show.
I mean, I think if you knew that 2 dream cars were won, I think the bookends is the best strategy. Monday to hook them in and Friday to end on a good note, especially with how much was won on Friday. And another point is that Torgo and us, we were just talking about this. We've had sort of an influx of the same dream car brands throughout. We had a Porsche the last dream car week. We had a Maserati the last dream car week. A Tesla, and I believe the Aston Martin was not the exact same Aston Martin, but a Aston Martin on last Dream Car Week as well. I don't know if this bothers me as much, because me as a price viewer, I tend to be someone who focuses on the individual games and how they're played. But do you think that the repeating of brands could bother people, or could it become stale?
I don't think anyone cares.
At some point, they have to start repeating. I mean, that's just the way it goes. You have such a limited amount of brands. And I mean, when you ask what is a dream car, what is going to come up is your obvious answers. So, I mean, at some point, just go with the flow. Keep repeating them and just offer different models if you have to.
I mean, hell, if you go to, a city, you find someone who's just grateful to have a car, you'll be like, oh dear, what's your dream car? Does it have wheels? Yes, then that's my dream car. And that's what you're going to find most people say anyway. So,
as long as they have some mix of the car games, I think the variety can be kept up. As long as it's not Spelling Bee for an Aston Martin every year, I think we should be fine. At least for me as a viewer. And think we were generally in agreement there. But Dream Car Week was a lot of fun, and if there's, like I said, if there's anything that crossed your mind that you want to mention, leave a comment below. But if you were missing Pay the Rent and a chance to win $100,000, well, you possibly have another chance to win $100,000 or more with the possible tournament of the Pyramid Revival coming to ABC this summer, hosted by Michael Strahan. We were talking about this before in the rumor mill, but it is now seemingly more and more official. BuzzerBlog.com has posted a reference to casting at, I believe it's pyramidcasting.com, where you can,
I think it was castingpyramid.com.
castingpyramid.com. And
Yes, it's Casting Pyramid.
And you can get that and try to get on this version of Pyramid. So, like as I said, we were talking about this before in sort of the rumor mill, but now that we're seeing it more materialized, that we're seeing it actually happening, I've made the argument before that because of how suspenseful Pyramid can be because of at its peak just actually how much excitement and drama it can be, I think this is a revival that can actually work well in primetime. What I wonder is, for a primetime game show, are people looking for something like this that could actually have suspense and drama within a game, or are people looking more for entertainment like they would be for Celebrity Family Feud? So I guess the first question I'll throw to you all is with this actually materializing, do you think Pyramid will work in prime time?
I think it can work. I think they are going, from what I've heard, a pretty good mix of the light entertainment games, if you will, with Family Feud, BattleBots. Then they have at the other end, they're having 500 questions, and I think that's the only really hard one. And Pyramid, I feel like, is kind of in the middle where it's both fun and suspenseful. So I feel like it fits that good niche, and hopefully it will work out, because it sounds like ABC in general is putting a lot of effort into having a lot of different game shows in their summer primetime lineup.
This is true.
I am hoping for the best. I do think it could work. I have said, I don't think I've said on here, but I've said before, I believe that the winner's circle in Pyramid is perhaps not only one of the most suspenseful things in game shows, but I mean, outside of perhaps acting on television, it really is probably one of the most suspenseful things on television, period, with just the knowing the amount that's being played for, how it builds up, and then when they reach the top, if they can get it and they release all of the tension and with a bunch of happiness and dings and bells, or if they deflate the entire studio as they have a crushing defeat, it's an excellent moment. And I know people out there, regular people out there, still remember Pyramid. So I think that is something that they'll be looking for. And I mean, it's worked in the past. Millionaire was a huge success because of that. And I mean, I know they ran it into the ground, but we've actually been pretty tame and chill on primetime big money game shows. I mean, it's not a lot going on in terms, we're done with Minute to Win It and Deal or No Deal and stuff like that. So this could be a return to that, and I think people might be ready after a well rest from it.
I always thought Pyramid, even though it had suspense to it, I thought the suspense came very naturally and subtly, and I feel like they didn't need to do much in the form of gimmicks. One of the things that I sort of felt like didn't work with Donnie Mid is I felt like Donnie Mid felt a little bit less subtle with the suspense of it all, with its music and
they tried too hard and it was convoluted.
I think we should just clarify that Donnie Mid is the version of Pyramid that existed, hosted by Donny Osmond.
Correct. Yes, in about 2002. But so my question to sort of JJ's point is, and actually this is sort of something that was on my mind with this, is what do you think would be the right balance that would work for this Pyramid? Do you think that they need to add something to make it work in prime time? How much of the subtle approach of the original Pyramid do you think would work without it seeming like just an absolute rehash of the Dick Clark version?
I mean, honestly, I think that's probably what they're going for. I don't think they need to do anything different. I think looking at the logo, I think that they're just going to sit down. They sat down, watched a bunch of episodes of $100,000 Pyramid, and said, "All right, let's put it together," and that's it. And sometimes that's what people want. Sometimes they don't want to see a new take on this or that. They just want to play the game. That's why Family Feud still exists. It helps with Steve Harvey too, but the game is still there. They answer survey questions and they play for $20,000. No more, no less.
This is true. This is definitely true. And we had talked a bit before about Michael Strahan coming on to host. Adam, I could be wrong, but I thought you, among all of us, were most skeptical of.
I was skeptical because I felt like ABC is just trying to boost we have Michael Strahan and you don't kind of attitude. But, I'm not going to completely judge his hosting until I actually see the show.
Which actually sort of leads into my thought here of what do you think Michael Strahan should do in order to make Pyramid work? Because while I could be wrong, the sense that I get from Michael Strahan's hosting style is that it's very much like he's your friend, he's your buddy, he's sort of your cheerleader of sorts, whereas I felt like Dick Clark had a slightly more professional tone to it that, again, given Pyramid's atmosphere, I think really worked. And actually, Mike Richards, who hosted the Game Show Network Pyramid, I thought had somewhat of a similar style, not quite the same, and that's one of the reasons I felt his hosting worked well. But if, in fact, Michael Strahan carries over his sort of friendly buddy-buddy style to Pyramid, will it work?
Well, I don't know the ratings on perhaps Live with Kelly and Michael, but I'm assuming that's one of the reasons that he was chosen. I don't know. I don't know if Good Morning America's still number one. I know that it and the Today Show were trying to fight it out, but I think one of the things they wanted was Michael Strahan to be himself, and he's affable and he looks approachable and he looks like he's very natural when he's on camera. And I think that's one thing you might find with a lot of sports stars is that they aren't actors, they aren't television professionals, they're themselves. They weren't trained in this or anything, they're just them. Sometimes it works and you have all this nice sportscasters who do stuff with NBC and ABC and all the networks doing sports stuff, and sometimes they don't. You get a Rolf Bernitsky on Wheel of Fortune, and so we'll see which way Strahan goes. But since his work on Good Morning America and Live looks well, they want him to bring that audience that watches in the morning to prime time, and I think he could do that.
Dick Clark was a professional for years. Strahan is coming up the football field and becoming a broadcaster. So we shall see how that goes. It's not like he's this, I've been around for 30 years, I can do this stuff kind of person.
But to sort of challenge that point, I feel like even in the last couple of years, Strahan is already starting to develop this buddy-buddy friendly style. He actually has a style that I've noticed. My question is whether this style will make the Pyramid format work. And really, this is all speculation anyway. We really have to see what sort of format they go with, how he hosts, and whether they meld. And I guess my sort of last thought for now about Pyramid is, what level of celebrities do you feel will work for this? Because I feel like for a primetime Pyramid game show, they're not going to get like Bradley Cooper, Leonardo DiCaprio, that era. But part of the problem with an otherwise well-received Mike Richards Pyramid is that the celebrities felt sort of obscure. Do you think that A, this Pyramid can get to actually a level of somewhat recognizable celebrity, and B, do you feel that the modern celebrity can help bump Pyramid like it would up?
In the 80s for Pyramid and Password, you had a lot of sitcom stars. I would expect that's going to be their base, is a lot of the current sitcoms, especially on ABC. Like Jeff Garlin from the Goldbergs, for example. I don't know who's the main character in this new show, The O'Neills, that's debuting this month.
I don't really watch ABC that much. Do we have any celebrities on current ABC shows that have played before?
Thinking on it, I would say no, because I mean, Pyramid was so long ago, and most of the stars on here, are kind of just starting out. So not
We
all.
do we do probably have a couple of people that could possibly be sort of a treat for this. As Torgo mentioned, reality stars that you could easily get on from The Bachelor, The Bachelorette on, or Anthony Anderson, who I believe he's still on Blackish. I'm not 100% on.
Yeah, it's
Please,
still
yes.
going.
Yes,
The show is
but
still
he's
going.
done Celebrity Millionaire before, so
He's done a couple of shows, and I think he could definitely be an excellent game player. I think he would be among one of the ones that I would personally want to play with because he's shown that on other shows he can definitely play.
but yet
And
he was also attached to Tell the Truth, and I wonder if To Tell the Truth is or isn't going to air, whether they're going to get Anthony Anderson involved. But
you don't have to. I don't know if they have to blow the water out with celebrity. There were some celebrities on Celebrity Family Feud that I did not recognize. I did not know who they were. But Turgo brought up a good point for the kind. If you want name celebrities, perhaps the celebrities that Hollywood Game Night gets, because Hollywood Game Night gets some pretty good celebrities for their program. But I think you're right in that you're going to probably see, stars of current television shows. Nothing was really wrong with who they had for Pyramid that was on GSN hosted by Mike Richards. They had stars of Community and Parks and Rec. It looks like they just went to the NBC lot and picked people off. They got a few people from one person from New Girl. They had one person from Blue Bloods. Like, they got people who starred on television shows. The biggest problem I had with Mike's Pyramid is that the celebrities they had weren't that great at playing the game. And I think that that's something they need to work on more than just the name they're getting, is who can they potentially get that knows how to play the game. And I think maybe they can, if they could audition the people quickly who they're going to get, I would audition the celebrities.
at the same time, I think there should be some sort of balance because I remember the moments where celebrities gave away a clue and got legitimately frustrated and legitimately upset, and maybe it's just a slightly masochistic part of my mind, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the celebrities actually caring enough to react this strongly, to give a darn when they mess up. So I mean, and also if you think if there's going to be celebrities that are too good at the game, do you think that it'll just be giving away money?
No, because even if they're too good, it depends on, what they give to the people. Listen, Marky Post and Henry Pollock II were great, great players. They didn't always win because sometimes the categories just weren't in their favor. The contestants weren't in their favor. It's good to have people that can be good at playing the game. I think it makes the show fun to watch. Torgo brought up a good point about where this tapes and who they'll get, and I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. It could. It tapes in New York, so you're gonna get people who perhaps are New York celebrities over LA celebrities, but I don't think it's that much of a problem. I think they could still find people from LA who come over to New York. I think that was a big concern when Fallon said he was going to stay in New York, about how the Tonight Show would have harder time getting guests. And I don't think the Tonight Show's had that problem. So
Yeah, I mean, that's another valid point, but we'll have to see how it all materializes when it eventually airs in the summer. But now we're going to move on to something that I don't think we've ever talked about it here. It's something that I've never talked about in here, and I'm not sure I ever want to talk about again besides this point. Saturday Night Live. Going on a bit of a downswing, if I'm being honest, but for game show fans, we had a fun little sketch, going all the way back to David Ruprecht, his sweaters, and Supermarket Sweep. SNL, this was a sketch they taped, but could not actually put on the air for whatever reason. Not in an offensive way, but they just didn't have time. About two contestants doing Supermarket Sweep, and one had, let's just say, some outside of the box tactics to try to win the supermarket round. The question is, why at this point are they airing a sketch? It felt sort of random. Supermarket Sweep hasn't been on the air in a few years. I think it was generally well regarded, but I don't think people would typically put it in their top 10. So why now? Just a random impulse from a writer? Something that
I've seen some nostalgia era articles about this show, and there have, I think, been rumors that they're trying to bring it back. And it's just one of those shows that people who aren't typically game show fans will enjoy, because most of the show is basically a sporting event. It's not a game that you can play along with at home. And I think that kind of draws in people that wouldn't normally watch a game show because there's other aspects going on.
I mean, you say why now? People have fond memories of watching things like that, and I mean, I talk about the Tonight Show. Somebody on the Tonight Show, A, likes games, but B, they liked watching Pyramid, which I'm guessing maybe that person on the Tonight Show is 60, 70 years old. I don't know. But I'm assuming that the person who's coming up with the password, they're doing like original password with the original set, the color blocks in the back, the password in the little, sort of eye-shaped thing or whatever. They're doing that. Somebody watched that on Game Show Network. They really liked it, and they made it into a sketch for no reason at all. Because, when they started doing this, the last password version that it aired was $1 Million Password, which is about as far from original passwords as you could possibly get. So I just think it was someone saying, hey, I remember this. This sounds like a good idea. Let's do it. And sometimes with SNL, random works. So,
I mean, with all due respect to SNL, I feel like a lot of it lately is just throwing stuff at the wall, and perhaps this is just something that this was just something that thrown this was just something that was thrown at the wall. And
pretty much. I mean, we can, discuss about SNL and what they're doing right or wrong another time, maybe on another podcast somewhere, whatever. But, I think they're trying to find their feet. They've got a pretty much all brand new cast. They've had it for the last few years, and they're trying to find their footing with this cast. I think when, Hartman and Farley and Carvey were on, they were trying to find their footing when they first started with Mike Myers and everybody. And when Wig and Hader and Armisen were on, they were trying to find their footing. And so now we've got these people, and they're trying to find their footing.
I mean, I don't think any of us are talking about this point because we feel that this is a very major point. It's just a fun little thing that happened, and we're just trying to sort of figure that out. I mean, I think we all agree it was a fun sketch, and we enjoyed it, but just other questions about that. And I think that just about wraps up our sort of main points of discussion. I'll just quickly mention a couple little Jeopardy things. We were talking about Vinny Ramadajaran. He unfortunately just lost in Sports Jeopardy, ended up with 15 wins. Probably would have been over $300,000 at least if it were money value, and very good run for him. And we also had this week arguably one of the best Jeopardy games in the regular season we've ever had. Had combined money of over $67,000 before Final Jeopardy, which is the record. We had a guy get $23,400 before Daily Doubles, and he was in second place because a contestant got over 30,000. It was just really fun to watch and just see it all play out. So that was a fun little moment.
If I may jump in real quick.
Hi, Torgo.
With something. Hi, my name is Torgo, aka Road Geek Torgo. I want to ask a question that I just thought of. Since they're doing the video audition thing, do you feel like that shows that the show is being more shallow because instead of writing in or whatever, or just sending an audio file, they care that much with what a contestant looks like and how they act in person? I mean, obviously it's television. You can't look like a butt or anything like that. But do you feel like, especially with how reality television works today and whatnot, do you feel like having to send a tape instead of having an audition in person shows that they're going to be a little more liberal with how easily they can cut somebody from the audition process?
I do think that looks matter, and we've had taping reports from The Price is Right that showcase that, since they take everyone's picture. It's for reference, but it's also for plotting out the good-looking people who may sit behind contestants' row. I see this as the same thing. They want a face shot just from the waist up. They want a body shot all around, and they want the video. Part of it, I think, is saying we're going to perhaps see who looks good. Another part of it is making it easier for people who can't travel to New York perhaps time after time. I think it's useful to say, here, just submit this video, and if we like it, we'll call you to come to New York. Better than saying we're going to do an open call in New York, come to New York, then leave, then come back to New York again, then leave, and then we'll come back to tape again. So
I guess my main point to that is I feel like that sort of standard, that standard exists, but I don't think the standard has been limited to just video. I think in-person auditions, they're looking for something similar as well. So I think this is just more an overall trend in game shows. Again, not even necessarily in video form. Then maybe that's something we talk about next time. Nick, you want to get in 10 words before we wrap up?
More like 50.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Alrighty. Well,
basically, I think somebody in New York actually seems to like game shows because, you got Jimmy Fallon taping over there, you got SNL over there. Somebody clearly likes game shows over there in New York at NBC.
Plenty of game shows have taped in New York before, and it looks like it's continuing now. But, yeah, that was Nick, and that was the podcast. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. I'm probably fired from hosting. We'll find out after we wrap up. In the meantime, from all of us, have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, part of the Torgo Entertainment Network. For more episodes of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, check us out on YouTube or online at CNAOS13.net.